What if I told you that the jolly man in the red suit sliding down chimneys was once a fierce church bishop who literally punched a heretic in the face? The transformation from St. Nicholas to Santa Claus is one of history's most remarkable makeovers, and the real story will change how you see Christmas forever. Hi, I'm here with Christian Curiosity, where we uncover the fascinating truth behind the stories that shaped our faith. If you're curious about the real origins of our most beloved traditions, make sure to subscribe so you never miss these eye-opening discoveries. Here's what most people don't realize about Santa Claus. The man behind the myth was born around 270 AD in Patara, a bustling port city in what we now call Turkey. His name was Nicholas, and his life was anything but the peaceful, cookie-eating existence we imagine today. Nicholas grew up in a wealthy Christian family during one of the most dangerous times to follow Jesus. The Roman Emperor Diocletian had launched the most brutal persecution of Christians in history. Believers were tortured, imprisoned, and executed simply for refusing to worship Roman gods. This wasn't a world of milk and cookies. This was a world where faith could cost you everything. But here's where the story gets incredible. When Nicholas was still a young man, both his parents died in an epidemic, leaving him with a massive inheritance. Most people would have used that wealth to secure their own future, especially during such uncertain times. Nicholas made a radically different choice. According to multiple historical accounts from writers like Michael the Archimandrite and John the Deacon, Nicholas began secretly giving away his fortune to help those in desperate need. But this wasn't just casual charity. This was strategic, sacrificial generosity that would define his entire life. The most famous example involves a poor man in his town who had 3 daughters. In that culture, daughters couldn't marry without a dowry, and without marriage they faced a life of poverty or worse. The father was so desperate he was considering selling his daughters into slavery. Can you imagine that desperation? Nicholas heard about this family's crisis. Under cover of darkness, he climbed onto their roof and dropped a bag of gold down the chimney. It landed in one of the daughters' stockings that was hanging by the fire to dry. The family woke up to discover enough gold for the oldest daughter's dowry. But Nicholas wasn't finished. He returned twice more, each time secretly providing dowries for the remaining daughters. On his 3rd visit, the grateful father was waiting and caught Nicholas in the act. Nicholas made him promise to keep the secret, but stories of the mysterious benefactor began to spread anyway. This pattern of secret generosity became Nicholas's trademark. He would find creative ways to help people without taking credit or embarrassing the recipients. Sometimes he'd throw bags of coins through windows. Other times he'd leave gifts where children would find them. Sound familiar? But generosity was just one side of Nicholas's character. The man who would become Santa Claus was also known for his fierce defense of Christian truth. In 325 AD, Emperor Constantine called together bishops from across the empire for the Council of Nicaea to settle a major controversy that was tearing the church apart. A priest named Arius was teaching that Jesus was not truly God, but rather a created being inferior to the Father. This might sound like ancient theological hair-splitting, but the implications were massive. If Jesus wasn't fully God, then his death couldn't truly save us from sin. The very foundation of Christianity was under attack. Nicholas was among the 300 bishops who gathered in Nicaea to address this crisis. Historical accounts, while varying in some details, consistently describe Nicholas as passionately defending the orthodox position that Jesus was fully God and fully man. Some traditions even claim that during the heated debates, Nicholas became so frustrated with Arius's blasphemy that he walked across the room and struck him. Whether or not the punch actually happened, this story reveals something crucial about the real Nicholas. He wasn't just a gentle gift giver. He was a man who cared so deeply about truth that he was willing to fight for it, even at great personal cost. The council ultimately rejected Arius' teaching and affirmed that Jesus was true God and true man, the doctrine we still hold today. Nicholas had helped preserve the very heart of the Christian faith. After the council, Nicholas returned to Myra and continued serving as bishop until his death around 343 AD. His reputation for Generosity and devotion to Christ grew throughout the region. People began sharing stories of his kindness, his miraculous interventions for those in danger, and his unwavering commitment to defending the faith. When Nicholas died on December 6th, the date became a feast day in his honor. For over 1,000 years, children across Europe would eagerly await St. Nicholas Day, when they would receive gifts commemorating the generous bishop's legacy. But how did this 4th century Turkish bishop become the North Pole-dwelling Santa Claus we know today? The transformation happened gradually over centuries. Dutch immigrants brought their Sinterklaas traditions to America, where the name slowly morphed into Santa Claus. The red suit, the reindeer, and the North Pole workshop were added much later through various cultural influences and marketing campaigns. Here's what's remarkable about this evolution. Even though the modern Santa Claus has strayed far from historical accuracy, the core values remain the same: generosity toward children and the poor, concern for those who are struggling, joy in giving rather than receiving. These weren't just nice ideas to Nicholas. They flowed directly from his understanding of the gospel. Think about it. Nicholas gave sacrificially because he understood that God had given sacrificially for him through Jesus Christ. He defended the truth about Jesus being fully God because he knew that only a divine Savior could truly rescue humanity from sin and death. His generosity wasn't separate from his theology. It was the natural result of his theology. As we celebrate Christmas this year, we can honor the real St. Nicholas by remembering what motivated his legendary generosity. It wasn't just human kindness or seasonal sentiment. It was a deep conviction that God's love for us should overflow into love for others, especially those who need it most. The man who inspired Santa Claus shows us that the Christmas spirit isn't about magic or wishful thinking. It's just about the radical generosity that becomes possible when we truly understand the gift God has given us in Jesus Christ. That's a story worth telling and a legacy worth living. What other Christmas traditions have surprising origins that most people never discover? You won't believe what we've uncovered about one of the most recognizable symbols of the season. Click the video on your screen to find out, and thanks for watching.